To me, peace is not just the absence of conflict. It's about fulfilling everyone's potential and giving them the opportunity and the space to do so.
So for me, peace is diversity. The world is all about diversity. So the more you respect diversity, the more you are closer to peace.
Peace is the outcome of a situation where people are able to choose the ways by which they want to meet their needs, and where people are also respectful of each other's differences.
Peace is about tolerance and participation and acceptance of the other in aspiration of our needs that are common. Since we share this, we should not use violence, and then work together.
When you have those opportunities for people to be open, honest, be transparent, and talk about those things that are truly important to them in their hearts, that's the beginning of peace and the beginning of conflict resolution for me.
Peace to me means many things, but I'd say at the end of the day, it's to have a good life for myself, my family, my community, my country, and my world in equal measure.
Happy New Year! And welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, where Tulsa's finest business and community leaders come together each week to serve the needs of those in Tulsa and around the world. I am so glad to be back. I missed you all. It's just not the same. It's just not the same without a Wednesday meeting, so I'm so glad you're here. So, you heard it here first. Today is National Drinking Straw Day. Yeah. Who knew? So when we meet and greet each other, as we're about to do, I think it would be interesting to know. So you're at a restaurant and they hand you a straw, right? With your water, your tea. Sometimes people use a straw, sometimes people don't. So when you say hello to each other today, let's find out who uses straws and who doesn't. Okay? Say hello to each other. Okay, that was interesting. I learned a couple things about drinking straws here, so that was more interesting than I thought it might be. Okay, Bob Sade's going to lead us in our invocation. Jerry Dillon's going to lead us in song and pledge, and Michael Willis is going to introduce our visitors. Bob.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, as we look at our calendar, we see a new year, a new beginning. But we are painfully aware that for many in our community and around the world, this new beginning has no meaning because they still suffer from disease, hunger, poverty, oppression, and so many other challenges. For those of us who are fortunate enough to have more than enough to eat, who live in a free society, who have access to medicines and clean water, and all of the other remedies available to us, we ask that you give us wisdom, compassion, and a renewed commitment to help our fellow human beings through service above self. Amen.
Let's sing our national anthem to begin this great new year. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. So I hope everyone will help me welcome. We have several guests and one visiting Rotarian. I'll read off the names of our guests and their hosts, and then we will give them an applause at the end of that. And then with our guest, our visiting Rotarian, we will say hello with his first name, and then give another round of applause. So starting off, Tiffany Egdorf's mom, Janice Navarro, is here. Josh Hurlin has Eddie Barclay, who's with Tulsa County, one of my colleagues at the county. Welcome. Chris Taberer has his daughter, Erin Taberer. Ken Snoke has Georgia Snoke, his much better half. Are they right over here? Forrest Cameron is hosting David Jones, and they're here up front. And then Scott Philstrop is the host of Rick Stearns. So please welcome our guests. And visiting from the Sand Springs Club, one of our friends, Brian Jackson. Hi, Brian. Thank you all for coming. Please join us again. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob, Jerry, Michael, and Tom, pianist extraordinaire. Thank you for tickling the keys for us this morning. We appreciate that as always. Yeah. And welcome visitors. Thank you for getting out in the cold and visiting us today. We hope you'll consider joining us as we serve the needs of those in Tulsa and around the world. You'll make some great friends and have a good time doing it. I can promise you that. So thank you to this week's meeting sponsor, whose sponsorship helps defray the cost of running our office, Mark Graham with Tulsa Area United Way. Mark, I don't know if you're here or not, but we do appreciate you. And as always, we encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. I guess in this sense, support the Tulsa Area United Way. In addition to today's sponsors, I'd like to thank all of our meeting volunteers today who make this meeting run smoothly each and every week. Thank you, volunteers. Okay, we're going to get right into announcements. First announcement is a sad one. Jack House passed away over the Christmas time we were away on December 21st. We're gonna miss him. He was a Rotarian for a long time. A celebration of life for Jack is being planned, and as soon as we know the details of that, we will pass on that information to you. Meanwhile, there are cards on the table. If you wouldn't mind jotting a note for Jack's family, I know they would certainly appreciate knowing that we're thinking of them and praying for them. And now, so past President Linda Bradshaw went to California to watch her Sooners, her beloved Sooners. And I gotta say, the Sooners, that was a great game, was it not? I mean, they did the state proud. They gave it their all, and that was a tough loss to take, but like I say, they represent us well. So Linda, while she was out there, actually sent me a Western Union telegram by special delivery. For those millennials in the room, this is the way we used to communicate back in the day. Came via mail, and she asked me to read this to you. Rotarians, sign up today for the 2018 Firesides Stop. Chance to win 2 tickets to the 2018 IBA Awards. Stop. Don't be left out. Stop. Let your voice be heard. Stop. Firesides are fair to all concerned. Stop. Firesides will build goodwill and better friendships. Stop. Firesides are beneficial to all concerned. Stop. Stop, rock, and roll into the new year by attending Firesides 2018. Fire up, Rotarians. You'll be glad you did. Signed, Linda Bradshaw, Fireside Chair. So now's the time to sign up. The Fireside meetings are coming up in a couple weeks, and so we've got some great hosts, lots of opportunities, different times of the day to participate. And I know Hannibal and his leadership team next year will appreciate your input on some questions that he'll pose to us in our meetings. So please sign up. I'm going to keep this. You don't get these Western Union telegrams anymore, do you? Okay. Sir Charles, Happy New Year. Did you have a good time off and good holiday with your family?
Had a fabulous time off. It was exciting. People I knew came by and saw me. People unexpectedly came by and saw me. People I did not know came by and saw me.
Really?
Yeah, it was a bill, so I had to pay the bill. Anyway. All right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see everybody's face. Everybody's looking wonderful, refreshed, excited to be here. All right, just want to make sure. Here we go. First up, now this is really cool. This is one of the cool things about this job that I've done this year is I'm getting to know people. Tom, you're here, right? Where's Tom Payne? There you are, buddy. All right. Tom, $100 for his birthday. More importantly, he was a Vietnam vet. He flew a helicopter. The helicopter was actually shot. And this is so cool. It was, well, I always get my notes out so I get it right. It's a Huey UH-1C. He was a part of the 118th Thunderbird Assault Helicopter Company, and their motto was above the best, and it sounds like he did a pretty best job himself, but anyway, I think that's a really cool thing that you learn about each individual here in the meeting. So anyway, Tom, thanks for your contribution, and happy birthday. All right, Jerry got her bonus check, so she decided to go a little bit crazy, and thank you. Is Jerry here? Where's Jerry? Is she not here? All right, Jerry, I'm looking right into the camera. I'm saying to you, hey, listen, thank you very much. Wow. It's your 10th anniversary. She was wanting some of the funds to go to the four-way speech contest, a little bit going towards the polio effort as well, Bob, so there you go. And anyway, really wonderful. So, Jerry, thank you very much for your contribution.
Wow.
Another birthday, Jack McGlumphy. Jack, are you here? There he is, hiding over there, quietly there. Okay. Jack is, we won't go into how old Jack is, but Jack is very considerate with his $200 donation, and he would like those earmarked for water wells at $100, and Bob's right. Bob, you're on fire with a bill today. All right, good for you. All right, thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. Now, before I go to the next slide, I have a hair challenge problem here, and so a lot of times I pull up apps that just show what people look like with hair, and I came across this presidential app, which we're about a month away from President's Day, and George Washington suffered the same situation that I have, is some follically challenged situation. But they showed a picture of George with hair, and as I looked at him, one of our dearest friends really came out, Forrest Cameron. And have anybody ever told you look like George Washington? Well, we're about to see why. Here I am sitting up late at night, and here we go. If you look at this picture, tell me the guy with the hair does not look like Forrest.
Wow.
Is that not crazy?
That's uncanny.
It is uncanny. So, I feel like I do Ancestor.com, so maybe you're going to sign up for that. But I appreciate what you do and appreciate the fact that once in a while the photo is of yourself instead of somebody else, okay? All
So
right, thank you, sir.
how late were you up that night?
Well,
and what
it
were you
was-
doing?
It was between number 1 and number 2 bottle of eggnog.
So
it was around. It was,
okay.
yeah, it was one of those things.
Now it's more clear. Yes.
Makes more sense, doesn't
Yes.
it? Well, anyway, thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Thanks, Charles. I remember on my Nicaragua trip that I made last year, Tom pointing out some helicopters at the airport there as we drove by, some military hardware. So he's a military buff if you want to know anything about the military. Okay, so our speaker today is a great storyteller, so we're going to give him all the time he needs, so we're going to get him on board. Our Rotarian of the day is Marty Alexander. And Marty is the senior consultant with World Travel. She joined Rotary in March of 1990. That's about the same time I joined. That's right. She's a Paul Harris Fellow and a Club Foundation Fellow. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Marty Alexander.
Jenk Jones is no stranger to many of you in this room. For 32 years, Jenk was a newspaperman in Colorado, Minnesota, Alaska, and Oklahoma, but has written probably since 1952 in other journals. In 1919, Jenk's grandfather purchased what became the Tulsa Tribune, which was run by the Jones family for 3 generations. At the Tulsa Tribune, Jenk served in many roles, including the editor until the last issue was published in 1992. For the Tribune, Jenk covered Oklahoma national politics. He covered the NASA space program, including a number of launches. He's also covered prisons, sports, and has written travel stories throughout Oklahoma, the USA, and more than 72 countries and 7 continents. This might clue you into my relationship with Jenk, because I've had the great privilege of arranging many of those travel adventures for him and his family. Jenk's sister, Georgia Snoke, and wife of fellow Rotarian Ken Snoke, also contributed a weekly column in the Tribune, and brother David was also involved as a contributor. Jenk has earned too many awards to mention. He comes from a long legacy of Jones benefactors who have blessed the Tulsa community. Family founded the Alsos Unitarian Church in Jones Airport, to name a few. And Jenk was chiefly responsible for the creation of Nature's Conservancy, Tallgrass Prairie, where he also co-authored books and provides tours. Jenk has also been a major donor to the University of Tulsa and Gilcrease Museum, which he's also docented for 20 years, and I understand is getting ready to docent again. Over the years, Jenk has shared many interesting stories about his family, and I have to share one of them. Jenk's grandfather was first cousins to renowned architect Frank Lloyd Wright. Jenk's grandfather commissioned Wright to build the only Frank Lloyd Wright home in Tulsa. And many of you know that Frank Lloyd Wright was a genius in design, but not in functionality. One day, Jenk's grandfather called Frank to complain that there was a leak over his desk, and Frank replied, "Move the desk." Today's Jenk's topic is Oklahoma, the land and its colorful names. Please join me in welcoming my idol and my friend, Jenk Jones.
Mike mentioned the OU game, which was quite, it's going to go down as one of those great classics, but I always have just a little trouble as a historian rooting for a team whose fight song honors two groups of illegals, the Boomers and the Sooners. I'm going to, all of you know about Oklahoma to a greater or lesser degree. Today I'm just going to try and kind of pull some of it together for you, and then we'll deal with some of these place names. Many years ago, our daughter, then 5, had a part in a kindergarten production. Hers was to sing Woody Guthrie's "This Land Is Your Land." Do you realize that a 5-year-old can sing the same verses 632 times in succession without being bored or sensing over-repetition? There were times we wanted to muzzle her, but she kept traveling from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. At least she sailed through the performance with the aplomb that small children have before they develop self-consciousness. Recently, I began thinking again about those words. Woody sang of all America, but "this land is your land, this land is my land" would be a fitting theme for Oklahoma. After all, Woody Guthrie was a native of Okemah, and what he saw here in his formative years placed a bold stamp on his music. So let's look at this state of Oklahoma, this land of 69,000 square miles that recently celebrated its centennial. It's a remarkable piece of the earth. Oklahoma tops out at nearly 5,000 feet above sea level on the Black Mesa, a steep-sided spill of long, cool lava that runs from Colorado through the northeastern corner of New Mexico and into our panhandle. It bottoms out, if you will, at less than 300 feet elevation, where the Little River enters Arkansas in southeastern Oklahoma. Due to the tilt of the land from northwest to southeast, most of our rivers, the arteries of water that bring life to the land, run generally southeast from the Rockies or the high plains, although the Spring, Grand, and Illinois River exit Kansas's Flint Hills or Missouri's Ozarks, and their waters flow south through Oklahoma before meeting the Arkansas River. The tip of the panhandle is a western landscape. Buttes and mesas, cactus, pinon pine, shortgrass, and mule deer. Cimarron County, our highest, driest, and least populated area, is also the only county in America that borders 4 states: Texas on the south, New Mexico on the west, Colorado on the north, and less than a mile of Kansas. It has Indian petroglyphs, dinosaur tracks frozen in stone, petrified wood, the Cimarron cutoff of the famed Santa Fe Trail, and a spot where Kit Carson built a short-lived fortress. Much of the panhandle is underlain with natural gas and is noted for wheat and cattle. Antelope frolic on its high plains. Hundreds of miles away, McCurtain County is Oklahoma's southeast corner. Immediately north of it is LaFleur County. They provide a fascinating mix. The northern part is splendid mountains, the Kiamichis, part of the Ouachita Uplift. They resemble the Appalachians, long wooded ridges that run east deep into Arkansas and rise up to 2,000 feet above their flanking valleys. The Talamina Trail that runs atop winding stair and rich mountains in LaFleur County is the western counterpart of the famed Blue Ridge Parkway in the east. Intriguing side roads from the trail lead into beautiful semi-wilderness areas. In McCurtain County, the Mountain Fork River squeezes through the Narrows and flows through Broken Bow Reservoir and picturesque Beaver's Bend State Park. It is lined with cypress trees. Farther south, there are bayous with the occasional alligator and stands of loblolly pine, reminders of the deep south. White-tailed deer, turkey, and proliferating black bear inhabit the land. McCurtain County ends at the Red River, where the stream's twists and turns over time have isolated bits of Texas on its north bank and parts of Oklahoma on the south. And what is there between these extremes? Plenty. Start with mountain ranges. Almost everyone would concede we have at least 2, the Kiamichis and the slick rock red granite of the Wichitas just west of Lawton. The latter contains the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge, first of its kind in America, and predating Oklahoma statehood. The man who gave it birth, President Teddy Roosevelt, would find it bully to see the herds of bison, elk, deer, and longhorn cattle that reside there, plus coyotes, eagles, turkeys, collared lizards, and all sorts of other wildlife. Mount Scott's Road, a 1,000-foot circular climb through giant red boulders, is one of the most spectacular highways in the nation. Most would put the mountain tag on the Ozarks, those tall forested hills in the northeast that link with their counterparts in Arkansas and Missouri. Rivers and streams in the area provide some of the best floating, fishing, and camping in this part of the nation. Also try a mountain label on the Arbuckles north of Ardmore, where nature twisted strata almost vertically and then eroded it. You can walk through millions of years of geology in a few yards there. The Arbuckles also boast 77-foot high Turner Falls, Oklahoma's tallest, where the pure spring-fed water of Honey Creek cascades between tall fangs of limestone. Nearby Sulphur has the Chickasaw National Recreation Area, part of which was once America's smallest national park, Platte. It is a lovely forested oasis featuring spring-fed creeks, travertine falls, colorful conglomerate rocks, and a maze of trails. I would also cast a vote for the striking glass, or gloss, goes both ways, mountains west of Enid, made of streaked red and white clay crowned with flat caps of gypsum. Selenite sparkles there in the moonlight, hence the name. Excellent rattlesnake country in case you were interested. And of course there are those taller buttes and mesas in the far panhandle that match neighbors in New Mexico and are prelude to the towering Sangre de Cristos of the Rockies. Alabaster Cavern State Park, northeast of Woodard, has the only alabaster cave in the world open for touring. It is a fascinating underground journey, really 3 caves in one, as each section was formed by quite different natural forces. Photogenic Cedar Canyon passes close to the cave entrance en route to its junction with the Cimarron River. Sand dunes line the north side of the Cimarron in areas of northwest Oklahoma. The best place to enjoy them is Little Sahara State Park near Winoka. You can hike the dunes and perhaps watch snarling dune buggies make their wild charges across the sands, which move a few feet a year, burying or uncovering trees as they proceed. The Antelope Hills near the Texas Panhandle were landmarks for travelers on the California Road and served as an important observation post in the Plains Indian Wars. Custer passed nearby on the way to his controversial attack on Black Kettle's Southern Cheyenne Village in 1868. Northwest of Enid is the Great Salt Plains, many square miles of salt flats that used to draw Indians and pioneers from great distances to collect the precious mineral. The large lake that is part of the site and surrounding fields planted in grain entice huge numbers of migrating geese, cranes, and ducks annually, and there are deer herds and flocks of turkey in the adjacent Federal Wildlife Refuge and State Park. The lake and the Salt Fork River host thousands of white pelicans in the autumn. Northern Osage County, where the Great Plains begin, has the Nature Conservancy's Tallgrass Prairie Preserve, 62 square miles of undulating hills, prairie, creeks, and cross timbers. Up to 2,700 bison roam the land, along with deer, coyote, fox, bobcats, badgers, and other animals. Birds include eagles, hawks, turkeys, prairie chickens, quail, doves, and the melodious meadowlarks. The preserve has more than 750 documented plant species, including big and little bluestem, Indian grass, switchgrass, and the hardy post and blackjack oak. Kids' eyes glaze over when you tell them that rock outcroppings in this southernmost extension of the Flint Hills are nearly 300 million years old, preceding the dinosaurs. They thought only their parents were that ancient. Southwest of Bartlesville, Frank Phillips' famed Willow Rock Ranch has game animals and a fine museum, plus Phillips's ultra-Western style home. Bartlesville is the site of the Nellie Johnstone Well, the discovery strike in 1897 that was the first commercial oil producer in the state, then a territory, as well as Frank Lloyd Wright's only true skyscraper, Price Tower. Geologically, the great majority of rock outcroppings in Oklahoma are sedimentary in nature, laid down by ancient seas, lakes, and rivers. Permian and Pennsylvanian-era rocks from a third to a quarter of a billion years old predominate. We have limestone and gypsum caves, sinkholes, and those graceful cuestas, flat-topped hills that rise swiftly on their eastern extremities and taper gradually to the west. When Oklahoma became a state, it had only a few natural ponds or tiny lakes. Even stock ponds were to come later. Colorful politician Alfalfa Bill Murray said of those days that Oklahoma didn't have a creek that would float a canoe the whole year round. Now we are a water wonderland with large lakes in all parts of the state. They provide recreation such as fishing, boating, and swimming, but also serve for flood control, power generation, and to stabilize water levels on the Arkansas River navigation system. That's another huge change, as Oklahoma is linked by water to cities throughout the nation's Midlands and even to the sea. Early day Oklahoma was dotted with forts, 14 in all, serving to protect lives in disputes between Indian tribes, Indians and settlers or soldiers, and Confederate and Union forces. Fort Gibson was where the U.S. military presence here started in 1824, and it was near Fort Towson in southern Oklahoma that the last Confederate Army surrendered in the Civil War. Try that on some of your friends from Virginia. Fort Sill proved its worth in fights with the Plains Indians, later served as a rather loose prison for warriors such as Geronimo, and is now the main artillery base for the Army. It has an astounding collection of cannon of all sizes. Our state was cobbled together by the establishment and then breaking up of Indian nations and reservations. The addition of the Panhandle, previously no man's land, in 1890, and a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1896 that saw old Greer County, Texas, given to Oklahoma, establishing the southwestern corner of the state. Our western boundary with Texas, excluding the Panhandle, moved back and forth 100 miles or so in pre-Civil War days as the Army kept resurveying to establish the 100th meridian. One woman who lived in the same house all her life resided in 2 states and 3 counties without moving a foot. Native Americans, of course, were the first occupants of Oklahoma, a state which derives its name from 2 Choctaw words meaning red people. They left tribal names all over the state: Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Osage, Seminole, Chickasaw, Ponca, Kaw, Pawnee, Kiowa, Apache, Cheyenne, Comanche, Wichita, Caddo, Quapaw, Arapaho, and others. The civilized tribes had colorful capital names: Tahlequah, Tuscahoma, Tishomingo, Okmulgee, and Wewoka. Muskogee and Tulsa were 2 other Creek names. Water is vital to all mankind, as illustrated by the Creek word we, W-E, that refers to it. So we have towns such as Wewoka, roaring water, Walika, running water, Wetumpka, tumbling water, and Wakiowa, well of water. Transportation always was important in Oklahoma. First, there were Indian trails or travel by rivers and streams. Indeed, steamboats were used regularly to supply Fort Gibson just outside present-day Muskogee. Then there were paths blazed by soldiers, settlers, and stage drivers: the Texas Road, the Marcy Trail, the California Road, and the Butterfield Overland Stage. Those were followed by the historic cattle trails leading longhorn herds north from Texas to railheads in Kansas, the East and West Shawnee, the Chisholm, the Great Western, and others. Those trails saw at least 4.5 million head move north in the 20 years following the Civil War. Some historians think that number is far too low. Eventually, railroads ran their steel tentacles through every part of the state, often to the dismay of Indian tribes that saw their old way of life disappearing rapidly. Finally, there were highways, air routes, and the waterway, all pioneered in large part by Oklahomans. Cyrus Avery of Tulsa made US 66 his personal dream until it was accomplished, and Oklahoma today has many museums or buildings that salute the Mother Road. In its heyday, we had the most Highway 66 mileage of any state. Oklahoma can be a land of drought or deluge, blistering heat or bitter cold. Despite that, we are a cornucopia of wheat, soybeans, cotton, peanuts, corn, milo, watermelons, peaches, and strawberries, not to mention the harvest of marijuana. We are one of the world's great beef producers. The state has more cattle than people and boasts growing poultry and hog industries. Our subsurface has produced and will still produce prodigious quantities of oil, natural gas, gypsum, coal, and limestone. Historically, we know that Coronado crossed Oklahoma in 1541 looking for the 7 cities of gold. But our greatest riddle is whether Norsemen came through more than 500 years earlier. The Vikings reached the New World and explored parts of it. Norse-style runestones have been found in several places in Oklahoma, stones that were known to Indians before there was much European incursion in the country. Whether the Norse actually were here may remain one of the great unsolved mysteries. Most or all of Oklahoma once belonged to Spain or France. Mexico and then Texas ruled the Panhandle area. The Red River was the boundary between the young United States and Spanish, then Mexican Texas. Confederates flew their flag as they jousted with Union troops for control. In almost any category you survey, Oklahoma is a collage of various bits and pieces somehow bound together. In building first Indian lands, then twin territories, then a state, many names were put on this land of ours. Some seem noble, some nonsensical, but present day or long extant, they too are part of our history. Let's look at a sample. Place names you can link together. Alpha and Omega, both in Kingfisher County. Remus and Romulus, Pottawatomie County. Long and Short, Sequoyah County. Loco and Looney, Law and Legal. Slim and Stout. Greasy and Slick. Carbon and Coal. Bison and Buffalo. Pharaoh and Royal. Lookout and Sentinel. Day and Goodnight. We've had 2 Alamos and 1 Garrison. Hope and Would-Be. Moon and America. Wheelless and Wheeling. Broken Arrow, Broken Bow. Cloudy, Rainy, Snow and Frost. Banner and Flag. Paradise, Providence and Peace. We've had 1 Freedom, 1 Independence, and 3 Liberties. 4 Goldens and 1 Silver City. Corn, Hominy, and Grits. Muddy Boggy and Clear Boggy. Rocky and 2 Sandys. Ringling and Bailey, but no Barnum. Onyx and Opal. Success, Conquest, Victory, and 2 Victors. Smacker and Crusher. Sunrise and Sunset. Sun-Kissed and Shade. Hell Creek and Hell's Hollow. Loving and Cupid. Robber's Cave and Robber's Roost. Freedom and Loyal. Fame and Leader. Rascal Flat and Desperado Spring. Dead Woman Mound near Ghost Mound. Vamusa and Pronto. Foreign place names once or still a part of Oklahoma. Aleppo, Antioch, Athens, Beirut, Berlin, Cairo, Canadian, Carthage, Cathay, Ceylon, Delhi, Dresden, Egypt, Elba, Etna, Grenada, Hamburg, Holland, Kent, Kremlin, Lebanon, London, Manila, Milan, Moravia, Moscow, Naples, Olympus, Ottawa, Panama, Prague, which we call Prague, Provence, Rome, Stockholm, Syria, Tokyo, Troy, and Waterloo. And then we get into the colorful and quaint names. Chickachaki, named a combination of the name of two daughters of a prominent Choctaw leader, one of whom, Chickie, later became the second First Lady of Oklahoma when she married Governor Lee Cruz. Cooey, the Cherokee name for the great chief John Ross. Ogallala, Wapanucka, Medicine Park, which is right outside of Lawton and has the most unusual architecture in America. I'll challenge you to go see that sometime. K, now that sounds not so funny, but in the territorial days, 19 of our counties were listed as A to Q, just had letters. A was Lincoln County, Q was Pawnee County. One county decided to keep the letter, that's with Blackwell and Ponca City, but they added an AY to it, and that's how we got K County. Whiz-bang, slap out. Slap out's out in Beaver County, and it would supposedly came about because the store owner out there was usually short on supplies, and if somebody asked for something, he'd say, I'm slap out of that. My favorite trilogy of Ulaga, Talala, and Alawi, which are close to Tulsa, would make a Hawaiian happy with all those vowels. Bowlegs, Going Snake, Big Heart, Bug Tussle, which is where Carl Albert went to school. They later changed the name to Flowery Mound. I don't think that's any better. Amabala, which is Alabama spelled backward. Frogville, Skeedy, Hotubby and Hochubby, Bushy Head, Pawpaw, Gene Autry. We've had Coy, Cross, Blunt, Valorous, Bliss, Joy, Prudence, and Moral. Flat, Cutthroat Gap, where the Osages slaughtered a bunch of Kiowas. Welcome, Eureka, Do Right, Just Right, and Damn Right, which were oil camps in the Cushing Field. Chance and Last Chance, North Pole, Stink and Stinking Creeks, Seven Devils Mountain, Razor Blade Mesa, Hog Shooter, Hoot Owl Hollow, Gettin' Down Mountain, Happy Land, Winding Stair Mountain, Little Axe and Hatchet, Two Pocahontases, and the now non-existent town of Non, where they have very nice picnic facilities right next to the graveyard, and that's where they hold the town reunions. Our Mount McKinley is 18,000 plus feet lower than Alaska's. You might not be sure which state you were in if you find yourselves in the communities of Lahoma, Arkoma, Mexhoma, Texhoma, Texana, or Texola, to say nothing of Kansas, Oklahoma. I urge you to get out and expand your knowledge of this fascinating state. See the sheer canyon walls of 40-foot hole where it hems in West Cache Creek in the Wichita Mountains. At Osage Hills State Park, notice the ripples water made in sand 250 million years ago. Walk paths through the thick forest of Kerr Arboretum on Rich Mountain. Catch the blazing colors of autumn in the Ozarks, then return half a year later for the whites and pinks of wild plum, redbud, and dogwood. Observe a lively cattle roundup, bison moving through the tall grass, or great threshing machines cycling the waving wheat. See a towboat work barges through a lock. Eagles circle as they seek fish below Keystone Dam. Shy deer emerge from the woods at dusk. Hear the drum's throbbing beat of an Indian powwow or the machine gun speed speech of a cattle auctioneer. Study our history, from mound builders to astronauts. Visit world-class museums, a grounded submarine, diverse state parks, then pause to sense the ghostly presence of 19th century troops and Indian warriors at sites of long-ago battles and skirmishes. Oklahoma is a young state, but one with a rich and robust story to tell. Explore it, support it, and above all, enjoy it.
take a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah.
Most nights on the weather report, we will see a temperature on the map for 4-acre Oklahoma. What is 4-acre Oklahoma?
Okay, first of all, that's interesting. 4-acre was a town of 2,000 people at one time because it's just west of the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve and a little northeast of Scheidler in western Osage County. And at one time it had about 2,000 people because it was a railhead that brought in everything from timbers for oil rigs to hay for the animals that pulled the wagons and so on. It has about 24 now on a good day. But the 4-acre weather station is also not at 4-acre. It's actually in the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve about half a mile from the bunkhouse, which is the original ranch headquarters. But they have a mesonet site up there. Yeah. Karen?
So thank you for that loving look at Oklahoma. But of all the places, what is the one thing if we had just one day to go out and see it, what should we not miss?
Okay, I think the Wichita Mountains is the #1 place in the state because you have, first of all, you got a lot of history in there, and you have Fort Sill with all of its their museums there. You got the Artillery Museum, and the Wichita Mountains abut Fort Sill, and they've got many lakes, many hiking trails, a lot of animals. And of course, you can go up to Mears for the famous Mears burger. The people who know that, it's a great place. My #2 would probably be the Tallgrass. #3 would probably be the Talamina Trail, and then some of the side roads that go off of it. But we have. I didn't mention Spiral Mound, and we have other areas in the state that haven't been dug into. That someday they hope to get the archaeologist in there. It's a really an amazing state for as young a state as it is because it mixes so many different cultures and being right at the crossroads of America. And it was a last chance state because Oklahoma Territory was founded in 1890, which is the same year that the frontier was declared officially closed in the United States. So people who had gotten here late or people who had failed elsewhere, this was sort of their last chance. And it was an opportunity for blacks coming out of the defeated Confederacy. A lot of black towns were created. We have Czech towns, German towns. It was founded in kind of waves. You had you had 5 land rushes and you had land lotteries, and then you had the oil booms, and World War II brought a lot of military down here. So it's just a very, very interesting state to study, and everything had been settled around it. Everything around it was already a state when Oklahoma became a state, except for those few miles at the tip of the Panhandle, because New Mexico became a state 5 years later. Yeah. I have not been in there, but I mean, I've driven around and through it, and it's a couple square miles. This is part of the cross timbers, and the cross timbers run from just west of Bartlesville at about a 30-degree to 210-degree angle all the way down through Oklahoma into North Texas. And it's cross timbers in large part because if you know what blackjack oak are like, their limbs go down like this and they interlock. And cutting through the cross timbers is extremely difficult. And this is a lot of cross timber country, very, very old country. Some of the trees up there, some of the post oak, I think will go back 400 years, which is quite ancient for this area. The cross timbers were so tough that when the first Army troops came through in the 1830s in south central Oklahoma, it took them 3 days to cut their way through the cross timbers. And these were people who lived with axes all their lives. And of course, the area west of Bartlesville was a notorious outlaw hangout. And many, many great stories that deal with that country. Put this.
Jenk, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for painting that beautiful picture of our state. You know, I got to tell you, I want to go out and get my Jeep and hit the highways and the back roads of this state now. You just did a fantastic job of telling the history of this state. We appreciate your knowledge and appreciate you sharing that with us today. Thank you very much. So a book recognizing today's program will be presented to our adopted school, Celia Clinton, and the book today is titled 30 Days Has September. There's cool ways to remember stuff. Oh, okay. Nice. In addition to that, we have a special presentation for you, Jenk. Brad Anthematten, you want to tell them where you found this? Brad's got a special presentation.
Sure. Thanks, President. One of the important things, obviously, related to history are people. And we have a treasure right here sitting in front of us that has given us a lot of history, lots of things I found out since I read some of the background that we didn't even go into. That's very surprising. So I was on eBay. I'm a collector of Tulsa stuff. I'm a third-generation Tulsan, and I like to buy things and try to put them back where they go when I can. So a couple weeks ago, I was out on eBay, which if any of you are eBayers, my feedback rating's almost 2,000. So that's 2,000 transactions with different people. But I've been on for quite a few years. So I ran across this piece that had to bring today to present to Mr. Jones. This is from 1969, and this is what's called an AP wire photo. And for you youngsters in the crowd, you know, we were talking about the telegrams earlier. This was a little bit after that. But newspapers, such as the Tulsa Tribune, would send these out to other newspapers, which would be a photo, and there'd be a little byline with a story either on the side or on the back so that they could publish them in their newspapers. So I'm going to read this to you. This says, Washington, April 25th, new Chamber Commerce President. Publisher, Jenk Jones of Tulsa, holds a news conference today after taking over as president of the Chamber of Commerce of the U.S. Jones, editor and publisher of the Tulsa Tribune, succeeds Winton B. Blount, who resigned the chamber presidency to become the postmaster general in the Nixon cabinet. In the back of this is dated May the 3rd, 1969. So wanted you to have it.
Brad, thanks for finding that, and I just love that we have a friend here that's out on eBay looking for historical information, and it always amazes me what Brad comes up with, and when he called about that, I was like, sure, we got to do that one. So thanks, Brad. So Becky Fields, side mic.
Can any of my lovely lady Rotarian friends or fashion-forward men tell me what kind of purse this is? Right? Anyone? Can you see, girls? It's lovely. Crossbody, correct. It fits your cell phone and your keys if you're running into a quick shopping excursion. It is a lovely little Kate Spade bag, and it can be yours this month and this month only from our membership committee. So anyone who sponsors a new member in January will receive this bag. And on top of that, men, don't worry, we haven't forgotten you. A guy will receive a detail for his car. So You're all set up, and don't worry, we haven't forgotten about your people that you sponsor in as well. You can what I've missed something. What have I missed? Was that good, Matt? What? Where will it be detailed? It will not be by me.
She'd rather have
You'd
the
rather
detail.
have the detail?
Yeah.
Okay, you can choose. Whoever gets drawn first can choose then. So anyway, so we haven't forgotten about your prospective members as well. They will also receive the biggest prize, and that is they receive $200 off of their initiation fee only during the month of January. And actually, they receive even a bigger prize than that. Where in the world can you go and get speakers like this, week in and week out, treasures like this? How exciting. So make sure and don't keep this to yourself. This is something that we want to share. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Becky. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, I announced that our dear Rochelle Parker was leaving our office to take a job with the Rotary 6110 office. And then we went on break, and it's like all of a sudden I woke up the other day, and it's like, holy cow, this is their last week. Yeah, and I know several of you missed last week and were surprised to find out, come on all the way up here. So I wanted to say thank you to Rochelle. She's been with us for 3.5 years now. She has a heart for Rotary and all things that are Rotary. And I'm going to get emotional here now. I'm going to miss her because I've really enjoyed working with her, not so much in the technical part of the job she does, but really how much she loves everyone here and all that we do. She just really appreciates that, and the beauty is that she's going to continue on with Rotary at the next higher level at the district office, and their office is down at 61st and Memorial. And we're not going to lose her entirely for at least a while here. She's going to be helping us out 1 day a week, so the wheels don't fall off the mic mobile here. I don't know if she can do that in 1 day a week, but we'll see how that works. But Rochelle, we just wanted to say thank you and present you with some flowers to take home with you. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, got through that okay. Nice. Okay, upcoming programs. Next week, award-winning editorial cartoonist Bruce Plant of the Tulsa World is going to be with us. He says, from White House to State House, there is no lack of cartoon characters. So that should be interesting. And then, in keeping with our literary theme that we're locked in on this month, on the 17th, 2 weeks from now, C.J. Box, New York Times best-selling author, will be with us. And several of you will remember about 3 years ago he was here with us to speak, and we packed the house. That was like the highest attended meeting that year. So we'll be setting out some extra tables. C.J. is visiting us from Wyoming, which is Keith Bailey's second home, and we appreciate Keith reaching out to C.J. to come visit us. So I hope we'll see you next week and the week after. So now, go out, tell your Rotary story, and don't forget to bring a friend to Rotary next week.